The rain fell hard that night in Midtown New York. Thick drops hammered the streets, turning sidewalks into rivers. People rushed for shelter, umbrellas flipping inside out, horns honking through the storm. Inside a sleek black limousine billionaire, Leonardo Miles sat quietly, staring through the window. He wasn't watching the storm. His mind was far away, lost in the silence of his own thoughts. Leonardo was 38, rich, famous, and tired. He had built his tech company from nothing, but tonight, none of that seemed to matter. His third engagement had ended weeks ago, and whispers about his cold heart and childless future filled every investor meeting. He told his driver, Charles, to just keep driving. Anywhere, he'd said. Just drive. As the car moved slowly through the rainy streets, Leonardo suddenly leaned forward. Stop the car, he said sharply. Dwat through the window. He had seen something, a woman soaked to the bone, holding two small boys. They were huddled near a broken bus stop, shaking in the cold rain. One child was coughing badly. The other clung to her side. Leonardo squinted, unsure, but something about the woman's face struck him. A memory tugged at his heart. He stepped out of the car into the rain. Raina, he called, voice shaky. The woman turned. Her eyes met his. Time stopped. It was her, Raina Calloway, the waitress he had shared one unforgettable night with 10 years ago. Her face had changed, tired, older, but still familiar. 10 years, she said coldly, not a word. And now you show up in the rain? Leonardo stood frozen. Are you okay? Are the boys? Don't act like you care, she snapped. You don't get to care now. He looked at the boys. Both looked around 7 or 8. Same curly hair, same eyes, same dimple on the left cheek, just like him. One of them dropped to his knees, coughing hard. Please, Leonardo begged. Let me help. My car is warm. I'll take you to the hospital. She hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. Leonardo picked up the sick child and helped them into the limousine. The warmth inside wrapped around them as the car pulled off. St. Luke's Hospital, Leonardo told the driver. Hurry. Raina didn't speak during the ride. She stared out the window. Her clothes were soaked, her hands trembling as she held her boys. Leonardo sat across from her, trying to find the words. I didn't know, he said. I didn't know how to find you. You were just gone. You left, she whispered. You were drunk that night. I helped you get home. Then you disappeared. I went to California, he said quietly. I got a life-changing offer. I was young. I didn't think. You didn't even leave a number, she said. Her voice shook now. You left me pregnant and alone. His stomach dropped. Are they mine? She looked at the boys, then back at him. Do you really need to ask? The car reached the hospital. Nurses rushed out. Leonardo helped carry one child in. Raina followed with the other. Doctors moved fast. The boys were treated for exhaustion and dehydration. Leonardo waited outside the room, heart racing. Later, a nurse came out and asked, Are you the father? He hesitated, then said, Please, I want a DNA test. The nurse nodded. Later, Leonardo found Raina sitting in the waiting area, wrapped in a hospital blanket. Her eyes were red. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. I'm sorry, he said gently. Sorry doesn't fix 10 years, she replied. Leonardo looked down, ashamed. I want to try, he whispered. She didn't say anything, but she didn't walk away either. And somehow, in the quiet space between them, something had begun again, just like the rain slowly beginning to stop outside. The sun hadn't risen yet when Leonardo walked back into the hospital waiting area. His suit was still damp, and his polished shoes now carried the dirt of a world far outside boardrooms and business meetings. The twins were asleep in a shared hospital bed, their small bodies wrapped in soft blankets. Raina sat in a plastic chair near the window, arms crossed, eyes heavy with exhaustion. But sharper than ever. Leonardo approached slowly, unsure of what to say. The silence between them wasn't empty, was full of memories neither of them wanted to touch. Finally, he broke it. I ordered the DNA test, he said gently. She didn't look at him. I figured they'll run the results today. We'll know soon. She nodded slowly, then said nothing more. She didn't need to. The boys' faces were proof enough. They look like you, he added, voice shaking, both of them. They even have my dimple. Raina's lips pressed into a tight line. Her gaze stayed on the window, but her mind was far away. I used to wish they looked nothing like you, she whispered after a moment. It would have made it easier to forget that night. But then Jeremiah would smile. Or Jordan would laugh and I'd see you. I hated that. Leonardo's heart twisted. I searched for you, Raina, he said suddenly. Years ago, when I finally sobered up, I tried to find you, but I didn't even know your last name. I didn't even remember where you lived. You never asked, she said bitterly. You were too busy bragging to your friends. I was just a waitress who helped you when you were drunk. You made promises that night, told me I was different. He swallowed. I don't remember what I said that night. I only remember I was in pain. My dad had just passed. I'd been drinking for hours. You were kind to me. I was kind because I saw someone broken, she said. I didn't expect a fairy tale, but I didn't deserve to be left behind like garbage either. He looked down. You're right. I was a coward. Silence again. A few hours later, a doctor approached, holding a sealed envelope. He looked at both of them with a solemn expression. Mr. Miles, Ms. Calloway, the test is complete. Leonardo took the envelope with trembling hands. He opened it slowly. His eyes scanned the paper. Then he sat down hard on the nearby bench. A whisper escaped his lips. They're mine. He looked up at Raina, eyes glassy. They're mine, he said again, louder this time. My sons. Raina didn't move. She just stared at him, unreadable. Leonardo dropped his head into his hands. All this time I thought I couldn't be a father. The doctors said 3 failed engagements. 2 women left because of it. I thought I was broken. Raina finally stood slowly. You weren't broken, she said. You were just never ready? Leonardo looked up at her. But you were? And you did it all alone? Her voice cracked. I worked 3 jobs. I slept in shelters. I begged for food. I washed toilets and changed bedsheets and fed them cold soup from food banks. I never had a day off, never had help. He stared at her, speechless. I hated you, Leonardo, she continued. But more than that, I hated myself for trusting someone who left so easily. Leonardo stood. He walked toward her carefully, as if afraid to scare her away. I'm here now, he said. I want to help. I want to be a father. Let me try. She looked him straight in the eye. You don't just get to walk back into our lives and fix everything with money. I know, he said quietly, but I'm not offering money. I'm offering myself time, effort, change. Just then, the twins stirred. One of them, Jeremiah, sat up and looked around. His sleepy eyes landed on Leonardo. Mom, he said softly, is that the man from the car? Raina walked to the bed and sat beside her son. Yes, baby. That's Leonardo. Jeremiah blinked. He has my face. Leonardo choked on a laugh. Then a tear slipped down his cheek. You have mine, he said. Jordan, the other twin, woke up and sat up too. Mom, are we going with him? Raina looked at her boys, then at Leonardo. Her eyes were tired but thoughtful. We're going with him for now, she said, but only because you two need rest. Warmth, food. Leonardo nodded quickly. Yes, I'll take you to my house. I have a room just for them. For you? She raised a hand. Don't think I'm impressed by golden floors or fancy cars. I'm going because of them, not you. I understand, he said. The nurse helped gather the boys' things. Raina dressed them in donated clothes from the hospital's lost and found, bin clothes too big but dry. Leonardo took off his coat and wrapped it around the boys. As they stepped out into the gray morning, the car ride was quiet. The twins sat close to Raina in the back seat. Leonardo sat across from them, watching them in silence. He wanted to say a million things, but none of them would erase the past. As the limousine pulled into the gated mansion in Upper Manhattan, the boys gasped. Huge white columns, a fountain in the middle of the drive, trees lined like soldiers, golden lights glowing warmly in the gray morning mist. Is this heaven? Jeremiah whispered. Raina held his hand. No, sweetheart. Just a place with a roof. That's all. Leonardo stepped out and opened the door for them. Raina got out barefoot, carrying her son's bags on her shoulder. Prepare to guest rooms upstairs, Leonardo told his housekeeper, and something warm to eat. Please. Yes, sir, the woman said, staring curiously at the guests. Leonardo turned to Raina. You and the boys can use my sister's room. She doesn't live here anymore. Raina looked him in the eye. If this is some way to impress me, don't bother. I'm not here for your money. I know, he said. I know you're here for them. She nodded. Then she took her son's hands and walked into the mansion. Head held high, Leonardo stood still at the door, guilt heavy in his chest. He had never felt so ashamed. Or so awake that night after dinner, after the boys had been tucked into warm beds with soft pillows and full stomachs. Raina stepped out onto the balcony of the guest room. She wore one of Leonardo's late mother's nightgowns. Simple, soft cotton. Her thick, curly hair was tied up in a messy bun. The city lights sparkled below. Leonardo joined her quietly. I never meant to hurt you, he said. She didn't turn to face him. You were drunk. But disappearing, choosing not to remember, that hurt more. I thought I was chasing success, he said, but I was just running away. She turned now slowly. You don't even remember what happened. Do you? He looked down, bits and pieces. You helping me walk? Your laugh. The way you looked at me like I mattered. She nodded slowly, and I did it all with nothing in return. Leonardo took a deep breath. Let me return it now, not just with things, but with time, with truth, with love, if you'll let me. She didn't answer, but she didn't walk away. For now, that was enough. The next morning, the sun peeked shyly through the clouds, as if unsure whether it was welcome after such a long, rainy night. Inside the mansion, the scent of pancakes and freshly brewed coffee drifted through the halls. Raina stood at the kitchen island helping the chef slice strawberries for the twins' breakfast. She wore one of the housekeeper's spare shirts, oversized but clean, and for the first time in years, her face looked almost rested. Jerry and Jordan sat at the counter, their feet swinging beneath their chairs. They giggled between mouthfuls of pancakes, each bite layered with syrup and joy. It was the first hot meal they'd had in days without wondering where the next one would come from. Leonardo stood in the doorway, watching them silently. His heart ached at the simple Sina, woman and 2 boys he had unknowingly abandoned for a decade, now filling the kitchen of his mansion with life. He had built empires, spoken at conferences, posed for magazine covers. But this felt like the first time he was truly witnessing his own life. After breakfast, he cleared his throat. We need to go shopping today. You and the boys need proper clothes, shoes, everything. Raina hesitated, wiping syrup from Jordan's chin. We don't need anything fancy. This isn't charity, Leonardo said gently. This is me, being a father. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Fine, but only because the boys need it, not because you owe me. He smiled softly, understood. Later that day, they walked through the biggest shopping mall in the city. The twins were wide-eyed, darting between shelves of sneakers, backpacks, and superhero lunchboxes. Raina followed them slowly, overwhelmed by the sparkle of glass counters and the price tags on the clothes she couldn't have dreamed of touching a week ago. Leonardo carried a few bags behind them, his expression calm but cautious. He didn't. A voice behind them cut through the mall noise like a blade. Well? Leonardo. Miles, shopping with a brand new family. Thorne, his second ex. Fiancée elegant, sharp-tongued, the kind of woman who knew how to own a room with just a raised eyebrow. She wore a designer coat, diamond earrings, and a smug smile. Her eyes moved over Raina with cold calculation before landing on the twins. What is this? Vivian said, feigning curiosity. A charity project. You always did have a soft spot for strays. Leonardo's jaw tightened. Watch your mouth. Vivian's smile widened. I thought you were past these phases. Raina stepped forward, but Leonardo moved faster. He stood between them. She's not a phase, he said. She's the mother of my children. Vivian blinked. Leonardo turned to the twins, gently placing a hand on each of their shoulders. These are my sons. You said you couldn't have kids, Vivian blurted, stunned. I was wrong, Leonardo said. Very wrong. Vivian stood there, mouth slightly open, not used to being the one left speechless. Finally, she turned sharply on her heel and walked away, her heels clicking like thunder down the marble floor. Raina let out a long breath. What was that? My ex, Leonardo said. One of many people who think they knew me. She looked at me like I was dirt, Raina said. He glanced at her. You're not. You never were. They left the mall soon after, the boys chattering, in the back seat proudly showing off their new shoes, but Raina was quiet. Her fingers gripped the shopping bags tightly, as if unsure whether they'd be snatched away any second. Later that night, after the boys had fallen asleep in their new, Raina stepped out onto the same balcony where she and Leonardo had spoken the night before. This time, she was wrapped in a soft house robe. Her hair loose and wavy. Leonardo joined her again, a mug of tea in his hand. I'm sorry about earlier, he said. Vivian's venomous. She always was. Raina shrugged. She wasn't the problem. What is? Raina looked out at the skyline. I'm not used to being around men who stay. I've learned not to trust comfort or promises. Leonardo nodded. That's fair, but I'm not leaving. I want to believe you, she whispered, but I spent years trying to get over the one night that changed my entire life. He looked at her carefully. Do you regret it? Her eyes shimmered in the dim light. I regret that you weren't there, but my sons. No, never. They saved me, even when I had nothing. Leonardo leaned against the balcony rail. They saved me too. I just didn't know it yet. Just then, a loud thud echoed from below. Both of them looked over the edge of the balcony. Probably a raccoon, Leonardo said, forcing a smile. But his shoulders tensed slightly. Raina noticed. You think it's something else? He hesitated. I don't know. That night, Leonardo called his head of security and told him to upgrade the alarm systems. Reina tucked the boys in tighter than usual, and in the deep quiet of the mansion, a shadow moved along the outer garden walls, silent, patient, and watching. The night was darker than usual. The air felt thick, as if the storm from a few days ago had left behind more than just wet streets. Deep inside the grand mansion, everyone was asleep, so it seemed. Leonardo stood in his private study, eyes scanning the live footage from the new surveillance system he had ordered. After Vivian's encounter and Reina's warning, he didn't feel safe, not for himself, and certainly not for the twins. Outside, the security lights flickered briefly. Out of the study, his heart racing. "Reina," he shouted as he ran up the stairs. "Get the boys." In the guest wing, Reina had already jumped out of bed. She grabbed Jerry and Jordan from their beds and pulled them into the closet, crouching low, heart thumping so hard it felt like it would break her ribs. The boys clung to her, silent, wide-eyed downstairs. Rain drizzled through the broken pane, making a wet puddle on the marble floor. Shards of glass were scattered everywhere like diamonds under the dim hallway light. The curtains fluttered violently in the wind, torn from their hooks. Two-armed guards burst in behind him, weapons drawn. "What happened?" Leonardo barked. "No intruder caught on camera, sir." "But they knew where the blind spots were," one guard said, breathing hard. Leonardo stepped closer to the broken glass. Then he saw something small and shiny resting near the corner of the rug. He picked it up. It was a gold ring, old, worn. Engraved inside were the initials J.M. Leonardo's blood turned to ice. Only one person could have left that behind: Julian. Miles, his brother. He hadn't spoken that name out loud in nearly a decade. Julian had been the golden child once, groomed to take over the Miles family empire. But greed and arrogance led him down a dangerous path. Public scandal, embezzlement, lies. Their father had stripped him of power. Leonardo, the quieter, more grounded one, had been given the reins instead. Julian vanished shortly after. No calls, no letters. Just gone. Until now. Leonardo clenched the ring in his fist. "Double the guards. I want every exit covered. No one gets in or out without clearance." "Yes, sir." Upstairs, Reina still held the boys in the closet. They were trembling. "Quiet," she whispered. "I've got you." When Leonardo finally came up and opened the door, Reina didn't move. "It's okay," he said softly. "They're gone. You're safe. Gone." Leonardo hesitated. "My brother," her mouth opened slightly. "You never told me you had a brother." "There's a lot I haven't told you," he admitted. She stepped out of the closet, gently lifting the twins into bed. She tucked them in again, even though none of them could sleep now. Back in the hallway, she turned to Leonardo. "Why is he here? What does he want?" Leonardo stared out the window. "My father left the family empire to me, but Julian believes it should have been his. He didn't take it well. And now," Leonardo sighed, "now, I think he's come back for revenge." Guards rotated in shifts. Surveillance drones patrolled the estate. Leonardo even hired a private investigator to track Julian's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Reina didn't stop. Had always dreamed. Leonardo paid the tuition without a second thought each morning. She walked into the classroom with her head high, her bag slung over her shoulder, and a mind full of medical terms and ambition. Each night she returned home, kissed the twins, and sat on the balcony with a book. Leonardo admired her strength. But he also worried. Julian wasn't just a bitter brother. He was dangerous, and he knew how to strike when no one was looking. One afternoon, while Reina was still at school, one of the housemaids ran into the kitchen, pale and shaking. "Ma'am," a man came, said he was Mr. Leonardo's cousin. He asked questions about the children. Leonardo, who had just entered, heard every word. "What kind of questions?" The maid trembled. "He knew their names. He knew what room they sleep in. He told me." Later, to find the mansion quiet, too quiet when Leonardo told her what had happened, her face drained of color. "He's coming for them," she whispered. Leonardo nodded. "Leonardo," she said, gripping his arm, "this place isn't safe anymore. We should leave, take the boys and disappear." "I won't run from him," he said. "This is your home now. If you can't," she whispered, tears in her voice. He looked her straight in the eye. "Then I'll die trying." That night, Leonardo didn't sleep. He sat in his father's old office going through dusty files, legal documents, and handwritten letters. At the bottom of an old drawer, he found a sealed envelope. On the front was his name. He opened it. Inside was a letter from his father. It read, "If you're reading this, Leonardo, then trouble has come. Your brother was never the only one with secrets. I made mistakes. There may be others who believe they deserve a piece of this legacy. Be careful what I left behind." Leonardo folded the letter slowly. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about family, about past sins returning with sharp teeth, and he was running out of time. It was a Thursday afternoon, gray and unusually still. The air outside Leonardo's mansion was heavy, as though the sky itself held its breath. Inside, the staff moved with quiet tension. Security guards stood at every corner. Surveillance drones circled the estate like hawks. But even with all the precautions, no one felt safe anymore, not truly. Reina had just returned from her nursing class. She walked through the front door with her hair tied up and her books clutched tightly in her arms. The moment she stepped inside, she sensed something was wrong. Too quiet. "Hello," she called. No answer. She walked to the living room. Empty. Then, the kitchen empty. She dropped her bag on the floor and ran up the stairs to the boys' room, her pulse thumping hard in her ears. She pushed open the door only to find silence. The beds were untouched. The toys were still scattered on the rug. Soft breeze carried the white curtains like ghostly arms, and on one of the pillows lay a single envelope. Her hands shook as she picked it up. It wasn't sealed. Inside was a note, handwritten, short, cruel. "If you want your children alive, tell Leonardo to give me what's mine. He knows what I mean." A scream tore from her throat as she fell to her knees, clutching the paper. The staff came running. Within minutes, Leonardo stormed into the room, eyes wild. He saw the note in her hand, read it, and staggered back. "Like he'd been punched. They took them," Reina whispered, barely breathing. "He took my babies." Leonardo's hands trembled. "I failed them," he said. "I thought we were safe." "No," Reina sobbed. "No, no." Leonardo turned to his head of security. "Lock the estate. Shut down every exit. Find out how this happened. I want answers." He canceled every meeting, canceled every public appearance. The empire could crumble for all he cared. Nothing mattered now except getting Jerry and Jordan back. Reina couldn't eat. She stood at the window night after night, her eyes red and burning. She replayed every moment with her son's Jerry's silly laugh. Jordan's habit of hugging her leg when scared. "I carried them inside me," she whispered once in the dark. "I raised them on broken dreams and boiled rice. And now someone just took them." Leonardo brought in more than just private security. He called in Adisa, retired intelligence officer who owed Leonardo a favor from years ago. "We'll find them," Adisa promised, "but we need to understand something first. Your brother. He doesn't want just money, does he?" Leonardo shook his head. "No, he wants to break me." Then came the call. Reina's phone rang at midnight. "Unknown number," she answered with trembling fingers. A man's voice, rough and cold, spoke on the other end. "Hello, Sandra." She froze. "Don't scream. I just want to talk." The voice continued. "The boys are fine, for now." "Julian," she whispered. "Where are they? Please, I'll do anything." Julian laughed bitterly. You're nothing. I want Leonardo. Tell him if he doesn't hand over the shares, the ones our father meant for me, he'll never see those boys again." "They're just children," she cried. "They have nothing to do with your fight." "You have 48 hours, Julian said, "or I'll start sending pieces." Click. The line went dead. Reina screamed again, a sound of pure pain. Leonardo rushed in, caught her as she collapsed. She thrust the phone into his hands. "He said we have 48 hours, she sobbed. "Aurore, he'll hurt them." Leonardo's face darkened. "No, I'm not letting this go on." That night, Leonardo descended into his late father's underground vault. It had been sealed for years, untouched. A single bulb flickered above as he dug through stacks of old documents, birth certificates, deeds, stock papers. Finally, he found it. The original will, and a sealed envelope labeled "To Leonardo," open only in the face of betrayal. Inside was a letter. "Leonardo, if Julian ever turns on you, know this. I gave you control not because you were smarter, but because you were steadier. I trusted you, but Julian, he will come for it all eventually. It's who you protect." Leonardo folded the letter slowly. His hands were steady now. Back in the mansion, Reina sat in the boys' room, staring at their empty beds. She held their tiny pillows close, breathing in the scent that still lingered. Her eyes were dry but broken. "God," she whispered, "I raised them with nothing. Don't let me lose them now." Leonardo entered quietly. "I'm going to meet him," he said. She jumped up. "No, that's what he wants. You can't walk into a trap. I'm not giving him the company, but I'm not losing my sons." "Then, let me come," she said, double quotes. "No, stay close to the phone. If anything happens, you'll be the first they call." He turned to leave. She grabbed his hand. "Leonardo," she whispered, voice cracking, "bring them back, please." He nodded. "I swear." At 4:30 a.m., Leonardo stood alone on the dirt road that led to an abandoned estate outside the city's family's old hunting retreat. The place had been empty for years. Now it would be the site of a reckoning. Behind the bushes, Adisa and his men waited. DSS agents, snipers, surveillance drones. Leonardo had agreed to be the bait. Julian stepped out of the house just as the sun began to rise. He wore a long coat and a smug grin. His face was older, but his eyes were still sharp and full of poison. "So," Julian said, "you finally decided to grow a spine?" "Where are they?" Leonardo asked. "Calm but cold." Julian signaled. Two masked men emerged from the shadows, dragging the twins forward. Jerry was crying. Jordan's lip was bleeding. Leonardo's heart tore in two. "Let them go," he said. "You can take the documents. I'll sign anything." Julian held up the papers. "I don't want paper. I want to see you crawl." Leonardo knelt. "I'm on my knees. Just let them go." One of the masked men pulled out a knife. "Enough," he growled. "Let's end this crack." A gunshot echoed through the trees. Then another. Chaos exploded. DSS agents swarmed the scene. Julian tried to run but slipped. Leonardo attacked with the man, trying to take Jerry. "Don't touch my son," he roared, wrestling him to the ground. Screams, gunfire, yelling. It ended in minutes. Julian was arrested, bleeding from the leg. His men were captured. The twins were safe. Leonardo held them both in his arms, tears soaking his shirt. "I'm here," he whispered. "You're safe now." Back at the mansion, Raina waited by the landline. She hadn't moved in hours. The moment the front door opened, she ran. She saw them, Leonardo, Jerry, and Jordan covered in dust but alive. She screamed their names. The boys ran to her. Throwing themselves into her arms, she held them like she'd never let go. Leonardo stood back, watching them. "You brought them back," she whispered. "I made a promise," he said, and for once he had kept it. The mansion was quiet again, but the silence felt different now. Not calm, just cautious. Like the whole house was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Raina sat beside Jerry and Jordan in their bedroom, watching them sleep. Under the soft glow of the nightlight, their cheeks were still bruised, their bodies still sore from what they'd endured, but they were safe. Finally, safe. She hadn't let go of them since they returned. Her hands stayed near theirs, her eyes constantly watching their chests rise and fall. Every breath they took felt like a small miracle. Downstairs, Leonardo stood in his late father's study, the letter he'd found days earlier still trembling in his fingers. His father's words echoed in his head. "There may be others who believe they deserve a piece of this legacy." Julian was behind bars, yes, but something still didn't feel right. Then his phone rang. A private number. Leonardo's jaw tensed as he answered. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was calm. "Too calm you think this is over," it said, smooth and unfamiliar. Desmond was just the beginning. Leonardo's stomach dropped. "Who is this?" "I'm the one your father didn't name. The one he buried behind shame and silence." Click. The line went dead. Leonardo stood frozen, heart racing. There was someone else. Another heir. Another enemy. He ran upstairs, found Raina on the couch near the twins' room. She looked up, her eyes searching his face. "What is it?" she asked. "There's someone else," he said. "Another person from the past. They think I stole what was theirs." Raina closed her eyes. "We just ended one nightmare." "Are we? Really starting another?" "I don't know who they are yet," he admitted, "but they're watching." Over the next few weeks, Leonardo worked nonstop behind closed doors. He called lawyers, financial advisors, and private investigators. He started restructuring his entire life first. He created a trust fund for the twins, transferring nearly half his assets into their names. He didn't want power anymore. He just wanted to protect his sons. Then he changed the corporate hierarchy of Miles Tech. He stepped down from the public board, appointing 3 trusted allies to oversee daily operations. He had made his money. Now he wanted to make peace. Raina watched quietly. She didn't ask questions, but she noticed how tired he looked, how his face had aged in just a few days. There were shadows under his eyes and a weariness in his walk. And yet, through it all, he never missed a single breakfast with the boys. He helped with their homework, read bedtime stories, watched cartoons on Sunday mornings. He was there, and slowly, day by day, the boys started calling him Dad. One afternoon, Raina received her official placement letter from the nursing school. She was now a licensed midwife, assigned to a private maternity hospital in the city. She stood on the front porch holding the letter in her hand, her eyes full of tears. "I did it," she whispered. Leonardo stepped out beside her, his voice soft. "No, we did it." She smiled at him. For the first time, it didn't feel forced. That night, they celebrated with a quiet dinner. Raina wore a simple cream dress. The boys wore bow ties that kept twisting sideways. Leonardo made toast with orange juice instead of champagne. 2 fresh starts, he said. Two being brave, Raina added. They clinked glasses, but just as the laughter returned to their faces, the doorbell rang. Leonardo answered it himself. On the porch stood a man in a gray suit, holding a thick envelope. "Mr. Miles?" the man asked. "Yes, I'm here on behalf of a client. This is for you." Leonardo took the envelope. "Who's your client?" "I'm not at liberty to say, but I suggest you read it carefully." The man left before Leonardo could ask another question. Back inside, Leonardo opened the envelope in his study. "You think locking Julian away ends everything? It doesn't. I was born in silence, but I won't die in it. Your father hid me, but I'm not hiding anymore. No name, no contact." Just those words. He turned to the last page and saw a photo. It was a baby, swaddled in a hospital blanket. Beside the photo was a medical report. "DNA match, 51% shared with Leonardo," she asked quietly. He nodded, and they're angry. "Do we know who they are?" "Not yet. But they know us." Raina sat beside him. "We can't fight forever, Leonardo. The boys need peace." "I know," he whispered. "But how do I protect peace when the past keeps coming back with knives?" The next morning, Leonardo called a family meeting in the living room. He sat with Raina. "But you don't need to be afraid. I'll always protect you," Jerry, now brave and curious, asked, "even if the bad guys come again?" Leonardo smiled gently. "Even then. Especially then." That evening, Raina tucked the boys into bed and stayed a little longer. "Mom," Jordan whispered, "do you think we'll ever go back to the streets?" "No, sweetheart," she said. "We're building something now, a real home." Downstairs, Leonardo stood in his father's office once more. He stared at the family portrait on the wall, his mother Julian and him, but now he knew there was someone missing. Someone from the shadows. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but if you come for my sons, I'll be waiting." Outside, the wind picked up again. Not a storm. Not yet, but something was coming, and this time Leonardo Miles was ready. 5 years passed like pages in a book, some torn, some soft, some written in bold. The wounds had not disappeared, but they had scarred over into something stronger. Healing. The morning sun spilled golden light over the Miles estate, not through storm clouds or cracked windows, but through clean glass and open hearts. Leonardo stood near the front entrance, hands in his pockets, watching two tall young men step off a private jet in matching aviation uniforms. They walked like they owned the skies, because, in a way, they did. Jerry and Jordan were 21, now, full pilots. Their dreams had taken off from a tattered bus stop on a rainy street years ago and landed here, with applause, pride, and possibility. Reporters gathered near the runway, snapping photos, whispering their story. Twin sons of tech tycoon rise from begging in the rain to soaring the skies. Behind Leonardo, Raina stood dressed in hospital scrubs, clipboard in one hand, pride in both eyes. She was now the head of maternity at one of the top private hospitals in the city. A woman who once scrubbed floors and begged for diapers was now delivering life with her own hands. Jerry spotted his mother first. "Mom," he shouted, running toward her with his arms wide. Jordan followed right behind. She dropped the clipboard and opened her arms. They nearly knocked her over. "You two smell like jet fuel." She laughed, kissing their cheeks anyway. Leonardo stepped forward slowly, his steps careful, almost reverent. He had watched them grow from shy, skinny boys into confident men. He never missed a birthday, never missed a landing. He had gone from stranger to protector to father, and now simply dad. As the family walked back toward the mansion, Leonardo turned to Raina. "I thought I ruined your life that night," he said quietly, "but you and those boys, you saved mine." Raina smiled. "Sometimes," she replied, "God uses broken things to build the strongest homes." They stood at the fountain where once she had arrived, barefoot and furious. Now she stood, powerful and proud. The woman who had refused to be forgotten. That evening, as the sunset painted gold across the sky, Leonardo invited Raina to the garden. A soft breeze rustled the roses. The twins were inside, showing the staff their flight simulator games. Raina wore a simple white dress. No jewelry, no makeup. She didn't need any. Leonardo turned to her, eyes gentle. "You've built your own life. I know that. And I know I don't deserve you." She tilted her head, watching him. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a velvet box. Inside was a ring, not flashy or oversized. It was delicate, meaningful. "I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm asking if you'll let me walk beside you for the rest of our lives as your partner. Not your savior, not your burden, just yours." Raina stared at the ring, then at him, then at the house behind them. Her house now, too. She thought of rainy nights, cold hands, the taste of hunger, and the strength of a single mother's heart. Then she looked toward the window where Jerry and Jordan waved excitedly. Giving thumbs up from inside, she turned back to Leonardo. Yes, she said simply. The air shifted. Not with thunder this time, but with peace. They sat in the garden for a long while, fingers intertwined, sharing stories, quiet laughter, and the silence that comes only when two people finally understand each other. Weeks later, the wedding was small. Just family, a few friends and staff who had become more than employees. Jerry and Jordan stood as best men. Raina wore a dress stitched by a woman she once shared a shelter with. Leonardo wore his father's cufflinks. There were no fireworks. Just vows whispered under a tree that had once stood witness to storm and sorrow. At the reception, Jerry raised a toast to the mother who never gave up and the father who fought his way back. Cheers rang across the garden, but as the crowd clapped, Leonardo's phone buzzed in his pocket. An unknown number. He stepped away and answered. Cautiously, a voice whispered through the line, calm, cold. You think the story's over? You still owe a debt. Leonardo and I always collect. Click. Leonardo stood frozen, staring at the horizon where the sun had just begun to set. Raina joined him moments later, slipping her hand into his. What is it? She asked gently. He looked down. At her, then at the boys, then at the house. He shook his head. Nothing, he said. Just the past trying to knock. But this time, the door's locked. She smiled. Good. They walked back together, step by step, hearts steady. For the first time in a long time, there were no storms. No shadows, just sunshine and second chances.